Astros carrying a bullpen ERA of 3.07. Now, Montero's struggles have been well documented this season, but the man of the hour is Phil Maton. He is the man right now at a 0.68 ERA and a whip of 0.5. Charlie, what do you attribute this dramatic turnaround for Phil Maton?
I'm going to go with the vagaries of relief pitching in Major League Baseball. Right? It's not as if he hasn't had any success as a big leaguer before. Last season, he was very shaky, and then it ends ignominiously, giving up a base hit to his brother, then breaking his hand, punching the dugout. Phil Maton, free agent to be. Now, has that led to a laser-like focus, knowing he's pitching for his supper and about 1 billion suppers with the money that's on the market for relief pitchers these days? See Rafael Montero. But Maton, he's a guy that you watch him and you don't go, right? Stanek's a max energy guy, 99, 100, 101. Maton rarely tops, 93? But he's walking nobody. He's not giving up any hits. So whatever's going into it, I don't think he's overhauled his repertoire. He's just been fantastic. And that's that. Sustainable at a sub-1 ERA? Probably not. And one bad outing when you're talking 20, 25, 30 innings pitched can move the numbers a little bit. But with Montero's struggles, that Maton has now moved up to where he can be used, or Dusty chooses to use him in games where he's ahead. Because Maton's role pretty much had been, well, if they're behind 4-2 in the 6th inning, all right, Phil, go get some outs, try to keep us in the game, give us a chance to come back late. He's obviously been their best reliever overall this season because he hasn't had the little burps that Abreu's had of late. Ryan Presley's had a couple over the course of the year. So I'm just going to go with credit where it's due. Whatever goes into it, doesn't matter who the catcher is. Phil Maton's just been pitching his ass off so far this year.
Yeah, and throwing a crap ton of curveballs.
Yeah.
I mean, leave it to the Astros. They don't throw you a lot of fastballs unless that's a really successful pitch for you. So Maton's just throwing enough fastballs. I think some of them are 89, 90 in his most recent appearance, but a lot of them, he's just kind of showing you the fastball out of the zone, and then he goes back to that breaking ball. So he's been really good at that. And then he gets that breaking ball over for a strike, and then he throws it in the dirt, and he starts changing your eye level, and you start chasing it, and then he'll throw you a high fastball out of the zone. Sometimes guys will chase. So it is working. The depth on that pitch has been incredible. Some of the ones, especially recently, the ones that it looks like he's hanging, guys are swinging right through. I mean, that pitch has to be really deceptive, the way he's getting swing and misses like that. So how awesome is this? Just to get, you didn't expect this from Maton. He wasn't even on the playoff roster last year. So just what a bonus, found money, what he is doing right now.
It's typical Astros, right? I mean, when these guys come out of nowhere, and, we talked about in the last segment, JP France and Belak stepping up for you when you lose Urquidy and Garcia, and you can't expect it. And yet, you'll take it. That's found money for you. And here, Maton, Josh, you alluded to it. I mean, the curveball has become his most effective pitch, and it's not by design. He said he hasn't been working on it. It's just something, no more than any of his other pitches, but it's just worked so effectively. They just called it more. So they're just adapting to what he's doing well. And Hector Neris, 1.19 ERA in 28 Ks and 22 innings pitched. Has he supplanted Rafael Montero as your true setup guy in the 8th now?
I think so for now, with Abreu, other than a couple of recent outings, being ahead of Neris in the pecking order. Also free agent to be Hector Neris. Mm-hmm. James Click signing at 2 years, $17 million, which has worked out very well. Neris just throws the ball very well. Some guys are cut out for the 9th inning. Some guys are cut out for the 7th and 8th inning. Neris, as a closer in Philadelphia, was but his overall numbers were pretty good over his tenure there. He was durable. He's been that here. Dusty's obviously very comfortable using him now as late as the 8th inning. It was a function of who had pitched Monday as much as anything else. But Dusty trying to prop up Montero a little bit, right? The easiest possible save situation is come in for 1 inning with a 3-run lead. And it was Montero who got that call and worked a 1-2-3 9th for his first save since the first series of the season. So overall, there are a couple of guys who might give you moments of pause. but it remains an embarrassment of riches of depth there. Even Seth Martinez, after being lousy the first couple of 3 weeks of the season, for your number six relief pitcher, he's doing just fine. And it all adds up to the bullpen again being not the best in the game as it was last season, but close enough that it could still wind up there.
Yeah, and even after Stanek had the bumpy start to the season, his ERA is down to 3.44 now. So, he's starting to find his way. They have so many great options. We're really spoiled with this bullpen. I know we saw Presley blow a game the other day, but overall, this is why you're winning ball games. It's just like last year in the play. It's the pitching.
We've seen, Charlie, you alluded to it a little bit, Brian Abreu scuffle a little bit. And obviously, you don't expect him to be completely unhittable the way that he was last season. You'd love it to be, but it's not realistic for him to be. That nails. He looked a bit more human in recent games. His season ERA is still only 2.13, but it's 3.86 over his last 7 innings pitched. What's your concern level with Brian Abreu and his ability to kind of settle back into being that high leverage guy that Dusty needs him to be?
None. Again, the innings level is still low enough that you have one outing where you give up a couple of runs, it can move your ERA a half run or more. It's not as if, and this is the prime beneficial element of having a really good and deep bullpen. I don't have a sense that, boy, Dusty, he can't resist going to Abreu, that the guy's on pace to pitch in 95 games. And, in this day, a relief pitcher throwing 90, 100 innings. No, it's not like that. Mariano Rivera gave up playoff games. Right? So did Trevor Hoffman. So did Billy Wagner. So every pitcher that goes to the mound, every once in a while, you're going to get got. Right? The other team's on scholarship too. And so that you have a rough outing or two or a rough week or 10 days. Right? It's natural to overreact, especially when you're used to excellence from a particular guy. Altuve started the playoffs last year 0 for 25 at the plate. Joe Garagiola, the late catcher and broadcaster, I don't know that he coined the phrase, but he wrote a book with it, the title, Baseball is a Funny Game. And it's not fun when you're going through your doldrum stretch, but they happen to pretty much everyone. Even the late, great Tony Gwynn, shorter in duration than pretty much anyone ever else. But, he could have a week where he'd go 4 for 24. It's not like Tony Gwynn forgot how to hit. I'm pretty sure Brian Abreu hasn't forgotten how to pitch. It's just a little bit of the waves of the season that you need to surf.
Yeah, I notice with him, sometimes he gets ambushed with a kind of a get me over slider or breaking ball to start in at bat. And guys are just waiting on that because he's kind of like Maton in a sense where they throw a bleep ton of sliders with Abreu. And this is a guy that can throw 99 miles an hour, but that pitch is so hard to hit. He can throw it for strikes. He can spike it, make you chase it. And just looking at the innings pitch, that's who Dusty's relied on the most. It's Maton with a little over 26 innings this year and Brian Abreu with a little over 25. So those two guys have gotten the most work out of the bullpen as of yet.
But still neither on pace to work even 80 innings. So if they feel in this day and age, if we're getting over 65, 70, we're really taxing them. Well, then they have the luxury of being able to back off and go to some other guys. But I'm just going to say a mini slump, you know what happens.